Hello and welcome. My name is Maria Ressa. Thank you for joining us on Talk Thursday. Today, we're joined by Globe's Chairman and President, Ernest Cu, to talk about exciting developments ahead. Ernest, thank you for joining us on Talk Thursday.
My pleasure, Maria. Great to be here.
It's good to have you here because everyone is talking about telco. Can you tell us where are we today in the country in terms of telecommunications? How do we fare?
We fare very well in terms of technology. We are not falling behind at all. As a matter of fact, the sophistication of our networks here, and I'm talking about both companies, is nearly at par with most countries. We were one of the first countries actually to roll out LTE. And again, both networks are doing that. What's lagging behind, if there is any, is the adoption of smartphones. We're at about, and Globe is, with the bigger postpaid base, is probably leading at around, we believe, about a 20%. You would say adoption in terms of our total base. But that is also expected to accelerate in the next year, given that the pricing for these smartphones have really come down now, with Android phones as low as $60 now showing up in the market. No? As a matter of fact, at Globe, you can actually get a pretty decent Android phone and a decent Android experience at plan $299, no? Which at that point I think becomes really fit for the mass market. No? So really in terms of infrastructure, once everything is done for Globe, and I believe our competitors doing the same thing, we should have a pretty decent technology that's out there.
So when you say we're behind in the Android, you're talking about infrastructure.
No, we're behind in the adoption rate of the phones, but people have in their hands.
And yet, we were number one, 326% adoption rate for Androids this year. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the growth rate, probably.
Yes.
And it's continuing to accelerate. As I said, as the handsets become more affordable, people do, because of our nature as Filipinos, yes, leading Facebook country, very active on Twitter and the like. There's no question in my mind that they would prefer to be always connected via an Android rather than the normal 2G phone.
Globe has been around far longer time than your competitor, but now, when we're going through lots of complaints about services. What is this? What are you doing about it?
Well, first of all, what we're doing is a major transformation of the network. I think you've heard many release stories in the press about that. It's a $700 million transformation of the network we're doing with our tech partner Huawei, where we're replacing our whole network. We made a decision over a year ago that the current network is really not going to make it in terms of handling the traffic that is going to come from what you mentioned, the acceleration in smartphone adoption, right? Because the networks in the country were built to handle mostly SMS traffic, because that was what the traffic was at that point in time. So we are creating a new network that is going to be much more fit to handle data traffic, right? And data traffic is accelerating at the fastest pace among the three types of services we do, which is voice, SMS, and mobile data. It's growing almost exponentially on a quarterly basis.
And what's the difference in the strategy of the two telcos?
Globe, I'm not going to speak about the others, but we speak about our strategy. Our strategy was really to be more holistic towards that infrastructure, rather than go and patch up the network to try and adopt it to the current usage. We would rather just replace brand new, get a next generation network into the country, and that way we're future proof for the next so many years. We're ready for LTE, for instance, as we build it, right? On top of that, we're also modernizing our IT systems. Part of maybe the customer concerns you see there is the difficulty we're having, in tracking histories, the length of time it takes an agent or a store frontliner to provide service because they have to go through multiple systems. By first quarter of next year, we'll be implementing a brand new billing system with a brand new CRM system, right? That should allow the agent to be much more efficient, right? So if you're maybe handling much more calls in an hour, resolving more calls in one session, first time resolution and so on. Because the capability of the new system will be able to track more of what the user is doing. Right? Today, it's very difficult to do that with the older systems you had, maybe 15-year-old systems that we have today.
So you're really revamping from the ground up, and
yes,
that's part of...
It's basically, Maria, going to be almost like a brand new telco, right? With fresh infrastructure on the network side, leading edge IT in the back end, The other thing that's also going to be very important is the real-time concept, for postpaid customers.
Correct.
Especially, where real-time your bills are going to be viewed on the screen. You make a phone call, within minutes you go and look at the web, it is already posted.
Excellent.
And this does several things, right? Today, most of the bills in the Philippines are you should say batch mode in terms of posting. That way, in that method, you're in a danger of overreaching your credit limit. You go
Yes.
beyond it.
Yes.
And because the bills, the records come after the fact.
Correct.
Well, this one we could truly honor. We could warn you what you're approaching it. We could warn you how much data you've used if you're really exceeding it. That's that sort of thing. So real time is also a very big deal.
When will that be? rolling out?
Sometime in the first quarter, we're going to go online with that system.
There are a lot of questions coming in for you, Ernest, and I'm going to just lump them together
Sure.
and then answer them in one go. Technical, you mentioned this. This is from at NJ Maldito. Is it true that you guys made a major change from Cisco routers to Huawei?
No, I mean, that's very specific.
Yes.
But the Cisco remains a partner of Globe
So
in some
you-
parts of our network, so we use them as well. Huawei is mostly in the mobile side of our network, but we use multiple brands of routers in the company. We use Ericsson, we use
So these are
Juniper,
just some
we
of the
use Cisco's,
services that
yes.
you use.
Yeah.
Another technical question coming for you. The development of Buy and Tell CDMA network, when is the full rollout of 4G and LTE?
Well, the Buy and Tell CDMA network is not being developed anymore.
That's for at Sin Sadang.
Yeah, we're not doing anything with that at all, even once we gain control of that company.
Yes.
But 4G LTE, right now it's in Makati. We expect to roll out in full force beginning next year in January, where we already have a plan to do almost 1,000 sites in 1 year all over. It will be done in stages, right? So as we did Makati, where we opted to go for a full coverage, contiguous area type of strategy,
Yes.
rather than patchwork like we once did in our 3G rollout. So we're probably going to do the metros first.
Yes.
Cebu, Davao, probably all of the major metros where there's a huge population of smartphones, right? And a maybe higher propensity
Yes.
for people to buy LTE devices, because the LTE devices today are quite expensive to begin with, right? In terms of handsets, it's the iPhone 5, the Galaxy S3 LTE, the Note 3 LTE are the leading devices. And you all know that some of the very high-end plans are very expensive to purchase on their own.
So we have both the service and then customer service are the two main questions. So let me throw a few at you
Sure.
and then you can answer them all at one shot because they're very similar. From at Super Sarit, has been a Globe user several years, victim of countless misinformation given by representatives of Globe. What are you doing to improve customer service? A similar question from at Johan Elizalde. How do you plan to answer or act on the negative feedback, especially on social network sites about Globe services? And then from at Celery Aganon, how can you improve Globe customer service? If the signal is crappy, maybe we can improve with how they relate and pacify customers.
That is true. On the customer service side, on the frontline call center side, we've actually been working very hard at this. The first part we tried to solve was people getting able to call in.
Yes.
In the past, it was difficult to call into Globe. So we solved that issue by fixing some of our IVR systems, by moving people off to different channels like self-serve, and also putting a social network team that could answer complaints on Twitter or chat with you for service help. We've largely solved it. The queues are largely moving now, and there's really no issues on the queues. So when people get to call in, they get to critique now the
Yes.
quality of the service or the interaction.
It's more demanding market now,
Exactly.
isn't it? Yeah.
And so now what we're doing is retraining the staff now, because we had to retrain a lot of and bring on new people, right? So getting them familiar with the product, the services, the type of interactions. And now that we're on that stage, we're again retraining to provide more empowerment to those agents, so that there's no more of this what they call, we always get criticized for robotic type of conversations. We're going to be a bit more interactive. We're going to give the agents the ability to solve the problem on the spot, right? So that's going to happen again. It's already ongoing in terms of training. So people should start to see the difference sometime in the first or second quarter.
The perception is that Globe is stable, has been around, trustworthy, and yet at the same time stodgier than your competition, and that Smart is more aggressive. Is this true?
I think it's changed over the last, you would say, 36 months or so. At least that's what we feel. Of course, everyone will have a different opinion. But we feel we've been really leading the way in terms of new innovation. I'll give you a few examples. We led with a product called Duo, right? And Duo International, which you're able to put a landline number, a US number, along with your mobile number on the same SIM. That's one. We also introduced the revolutionary super plans, right? Which allow people to customize plans to their own lifestyle. If you're heavy voice, heavy data, but no SMS, you could actually fine-tune that plan to suit your particular lifestyle and optimize the service, right? And then, by the way, you could also get any handset with any plan. So it's a very flexible plan. I think we also innovated in the area of telco retailing. I think it's if you see the new store formats that Globe has put forth, they're very, very much more attractive. They really entice people to come into the store, check out the devices, right? So it's a more of a true retailing concept rather than a payment center concept. And all of this has really led to tremendous growth for us in terms of both in postpaid initially, where revenues are growing 25% a year now.
Are you still number one?
We are still number one in terms of the revenues. Of course, when you combine companies,
Smart and digital.
yes, then of course the total will be over the globe. No, but
how are you going to deal with that now?
we're dealing with it as we dealt with it in the past. I mean, we feel that Globe has a very sound strategy. Again, it's evidenced by the fact that we continue to gain market share quarter on quarter. Even in the third quarter, where we felt that the advertising by our competition was at its peak, and Globe's network was at its lowest in terms of right before a major swap was going to happen, we still did very well. We had record revenues. We had really good acquisitions on the postpaid side, because the postpaid people are more discerning, if you think about it, right? They're the guys who are really going to tell you, what the service is like, and they're the guys going to post on Twitter and Facebook what the complaints are, and so on. So we did add a very significant number of subscribers in that quarter as well. We were kind of worried, to be honest with you, but we did well.